Hi, my name's Dr. Shani Paluch Shimon. I'm the Director of the Breast Oncology Unit at Hadassah University Hospital in Jerusalem in Israel. Today I'm joined by Joe Taylor. Joe has been living with metastatic breast cancer, and we're hoping today to have a conversation about how we can improve doctor-patient communication so that we can maximise and improve the experience of patients along their metastatic breast cancer journey.
Hi, I'm Joe Taylor and I have been living with metastatic breast cancer for 7 years after early stage diagnosis. I want to help patients understand and know what to actually talk to their physician about. Shani, upon initial diagnosis of having MBC, how is it best to actually talk to your physician about this?
Particularly important at the initial diagnosis is how we can try and help the patient hear what all the important messages, because it's very hard to hear when you've just been given a life-changing diagnosis that's also life-threatening. So I think the first important thing is to always try and come along with a family member or a friend, so there's someone with you hearing the information. I always tell my patients that the next morning they're probably going to wake up and say that they didn't hear anything I said, and they're going to say, she didn't explain anything to me. And that's a really normal response. It's very hard to take in information. So it's good to have someone with you. It's good for that person to take notes. I always suggest that the patient listens and looks at me and doesn't write in that first meeting. Rather, let the person that's with them make some notes. Sometimes people like to record the meeting. The other thing that's important, and if it's not offered by your physician, you should ask for it, particularly when there's an initial diagnosis, is to ask for a follow-up meeting. So I will usually offer my patients a meeting approximately 3 days later. So they have a few days to process the diagnosis, even just emotionally, get their thoughts organized, and then prepare questions. Was there anything that you remember that was really helpful that either the physician or the healthcare team did or communicated around the diagnosis that was helpful? And probably just as importantly, was there anything that the healthcare team may have done or said that was upsetting and not helpful and confusing?
Yeah, I think it was again giving that little chink of hope. It wasn't life is over, and you know, when you get that diagnosis, it's not straight to end of life. I think that's the thing that you've got to hold on to, that there is living to do in between. You know, we're actually knowing the statistics. Sometimes it's helpful, to get your head around that and understand that, but actually you're not a statistic, and things are changing all the time with different drugs, different medicines, clinical trials. You know, at that moment in time, you don't go into the issues about, you know, how you can help yourself, you know, whether you can do various things like change your diet, whether you need to do anything like that.
When we talk about sharing your quality of life and the side effects you're going through, I think there's one issue that our patients often don't share with us and that physicians often forget to ask, and I think it's really important and gets totally forgotten. And it's true for women of all ages, and that's issues of intimacy and sexual health. And I think those issues are really important, and they change over time, and they're affected by the treatments we give, and they may be affected by how the patient is feeling physically, but people always need intimacy, and sexual health changes along the way. And if patients don't share that information with us, it's very difficult for us to help. And because physicians often forget to ask, don't be embarrassed to bring it up, because it's really important and it really affects people's lives and their relationships. And there are a lot of interventions and guidance that can be given and provided if those issues exist. So don't be embarrassed to bring them up. Don't feel that, well, I've got metastatic breast cancer, so what am I going to do? Bring up those issues? Well, those issues are really important on a day-to-day basis. I think it's really important to have that discussion with your oncologist.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I didn't have any discussions like that with my health team. And again, I've got a man who's an oncologist. He never brought it up. I've discussed some things with my clinical nurse specialist, but again, it's not really discussed majorly. And I think it's massively important for you to talk about these things.
How do you think physicians should present the information in a way that's fair and honest to give the patients information they need without causing great distress?
I think it depends on where you are in the what you call the journey. Whilst you're living with the disease, your oncologist is pretty well keyed up in relation to what type of breast cancer you've got and, what kind of survival rates there are in there. So, with certain types, I'm sure that, they're knowledgeable enough to say, really, you only have X amount of years. But it's really difficult, isn't it? I mean, it is brutal, and it can be brutal, a discussion like that, and you don't want it to be like that. But again, it depends on where you are in your pathway.
So Joe, I'd really like to thank you for sharing with us. It's really important for us as physicians as well to hear about what's important to our patients and how we can help them and make their experience more positive and better. So thank you so much for sharing. I thought it was very brave of you to share your experiences with us.
Oh, thanks, Shani. And can I just say as well that it's been really nice to speak to you, and your patients must be very lucky to have you as an oncologist.